shake as many branches as you can on the tree and see how many fruit falls. It's like, you get what I mean? There's no clear direction, but let's shake this, let's shake there, let's do this whole mumbo jumbo thing and see how people respond. Then they are now responding of how people have interacted with them.
Hello. Welcome back again. It's episode 32 of the ThinkTalk podcast. It's Malik and Ibra. Again, as usual, excited to bring to you the social commentary and the political commentary that has occurred in the last week. Today is the 13th of April, and I would like to get into it immediately because, Ibra, as you know, the topic that we've been discussing for the last 2 or 3 weeks, tariffs, a lot of drama occurred again in the last week. So I really want to get into it. If you are ready, let me know. Are you good to go?
I'm good to go.
Yes, sir. So what I want to do today is I will give a quick breakdown of the update that has occurred last week. And then we'll talk about, I'll ask some questions, your thoughts, your opinions and all that. In a short summary, what has happened since last week? The tariffs were rolled out, and the Trump administration told every country, do not retaliate, just watch and let America grow. Yeah, something like this. But of course, this is not what happened. Immediately the tariffs were rolled out, the EU started discussing a potential 25% tariff on American products coming into the EU. And immediately China levied a 34% tariff on American goods. As a response to that, what the US did was immediately try to single out China as a bad actor, something like this. And they decided that they are going to pause for 90 days the tariffs that have been levied on other countries and go to a baseline of 10%. But for China, the US went up from the initial 54% to, I think, 84%. I'm not sure, it was 84%, something like this. Anyways, they went up. China saw this and also decided to go up as well. So it became a full-blown trade war. At this moment in time, this is where we are. Chinese goods going into the US, 145%. American goods going to China, 125%. This is crazy, I think, yeah? Because for the American people, it's going to be a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Now, an update that we saw on Sunday is that it seems like the Trump administration is thinking about pausing the tariff on technology products, mobile phones, laptop, and some other products. They want to pause it for products coming from China because, of course, it's very important that companies like Apple, Google, and the rest can continue to sell their products in the US because they're actually American companies, right? We'll get into what might have happened for that to potentially come up. But that's where we are with the tariffs. Now, two very important things that I want to add to it before I then ask you your feedback is, number one, when China retaliated, I think the secretary, let me quickly check, Scott Bessent, what is he? I think Scott Bessent is the US Treasury Secretary. It was in an interview where he said something like, oh, this was the strategy all along. We wanted to show the world that China is a bad actor, that this is what China can do. Because it was so funny to me. Because they retaliated after we imposed tariffs on their product, you see they're the bad guys. And this was the strategy all along. The Trump administration wanted to show the rest of the world that China cannot be trusted. Just hold on before you say anything, because there's a lot to say on that one. The second thing that I want to add is that there was also one person from the Trump's administration, I think the head of trade actually. It was in a House hearing and it was being asked about the tariff. Interestingly, at that time, the Trump administration has just imposed a 104% tariff on China. And the way they did that was Donald Trump actually just tweeted it. So the head of trade of the Trump administration had no idea about this. So they were asking him about it and he was saying, oh, I haven't had a conversation with the president yet. Of course, I don't know what's going on, but I haven't had the conversation with the president yet. And I think that's also another interesting anecdote. I want to give you the room to then flow once we start this conversation. But I think there's another update to add to it before we do that. The last update, the impact that it has had on the stock market. So with this trade war, with the publication of what we're going to do next, what will China do next, with that happening, the stock market has been fluctuating like crazy, right? Basically 20 billion or so in one day or in like 20 minutes. It was a mental shift, up and down. And a lot of people have been making the conclusion that it seems like there might be insider trading going on. Now you say there's a lot that I've dumped on you. Feel free to pick from it as you wish. But what are your thoughts about the trade war, about the comment from the Scott Bessent about the administration being iffy, not being on the same page, and the stock market impact?
I mean, I feel like talking about the US trying to make China look like the bad guys, I don't think that's working. It doesn't look like that at all. I feel like if it has done anything, is that it has made China look very flamboyant. If I could use the word, like, even in a better light, right? Like, I mean, did you saw like the vice president's like interview where he was talking about US trying to bully them and stuff like that, and I don't think this is a good approach to try to make US the bad guys or the bad actor, because they are not.
China, you mean?
Yeah, to make China, I think they have every right to be reacting the way they have been reacting so far. It's not just working, at least from my perspective. That's how I see it. I feel like it's even making a lot of Americans just be on the side of China, which is weird, which is, I think, there is no for lack of better word, I just feel like they're sort of imploding in that sense, when your own guys, a lot of your own people are all like on the side of your opponents in that regard. So the second part about the secretary, I think that's actually quite problematic if that sort of thing is happening, because it feels like I don't know, that's how it feels like Trump just sort of made the decision by himself, or just feel like, okay, you know what, I'm pissed, we're just gonna do this, and it didn't inform. I'm sure it would have informed some other people, but I think someone like the Treasury Secretary, right, or like
I think it was the head of state. The Treasury Secretary was the guy that said, the strategy all along was to show China as the bad actor. I think it was the head of trade or something head of trade, the person responsible for trade.
I mean, if the person is an important person, like in his administration, and he's not aware, that kind of sends out.
This is a person. Exactly. This is a person in front of the Senate trying to explain what the administration is doing with regards to this tariff, and he did not know that the president have decided to double down on the tariffs again.
Another direction. I think one thing that I noticed that also really changed, like compared to not even Biden or like to like previous administrations, like over time before the internet, is how message is being like sent across now. Have you seen the POTUS and White House Instagram account? It's like a troll page. And I mean, before, you would imagine to pass out like something important, he has to go through like a press conference or like a brief meeting, or something of that magnitude. But now just a tweet, just a meme, like they are jumping on AI trends just to troll. And I'm like, it's really interesting.
So personally, I'm all for things don't have to be too serious. I have I have a little bit of a personal reputation for being too serious. So I pay a lot of attention to trying to lighten things up. And usually, personally, I will look at that kind of engagement from the POTUS or from the White House and think, it's okay. But if you are in a tumultuous situation, the type of situation you are in now, I don't think it's the time to be a joker.
Exactly.
I don't think it's the time to be funny.
To
I
lighten
think
up or to,
people's
yeah.
life,
These
exactly.
are serious things. Yeah.
People are going to feel the heat. I mean, we talked about price increases before, and to be fair, on this podcast, we said, well, we know that price might increase, but if it will mean if it will mean that America has a clear direction on how to become number one again, then maybe it's a hit that you can manage for the short term, right? But now you're going back and forth. It's no longer clear what exactly is Donald's goal, because it's shifting from my goal is to create job to my goal is to make China the bad actor to my goal is to do, it's just shifting. And it seems like, really, it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. Unfortunately, it's coming off that way. I'm not saying they don't, but it's coming off that way. And now you think you can be funny?
Yeah.
That's
For me,
not
I feel like
acceptable.
if you ask me what their strategy is, I would definitely say it's along the line of going with the flow. Like, shake as many branches as you can on the tree and see how many fruit falls. It's like, you get what I mean? There's no clear direction, but let's shake this, like shake there, let's do this whole mumbo jumbo thing and see how people respond. Then they are now responding of how people have interacting with them.
Exactly. But that the lack of precision, that kind of strategy is a bit weird when you're dealing with the lives of about 340 million people, right? And it's not just them. I'm pretty sure there are so many other countries in the world that will be affected as well.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What's the three that you said 30 million? What demographics?
I said 340 million people. 340 is the population of the United States, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, when you're dealing with the life of the American citizens,
I was expecting like
it makes sense.
This is affecting everyone.
Yeah, a lot more people, more countries are affected. Even China, China will be affected, and that's 1.3 or 1.4 billion people there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm leaning a lot stronger on the side of I feel like it could also definitely be market manipulation of the stock, because Trump, I think it was a tweet also. He tweeted before then like giving a 90 days pause on like all the tariffs, that this is the time to buy or something like that. And a day or like like a few hours after, then you're like backtracking on your decisions. I mean, you need more. We discussed this right off the pod. Like, you definitely need more investigation to be able to come to such conclusion, but it doesn't look good. From where I stand, man, like, if I had some extra money, like a lot of money, not like I would definitely be like putting my money into it after seeing that tweet and be like, let's see how this goes, because he's the president.
I know what you mean, and I agree. I mean, we discussed off the pod, as you said, and as I mentioned back then as well. Of course, it's worthwhile to investigate, but I don't think we can really jump to that conclusion before knowing who are the people that actually benefited. Because, in all honesty, people keep talking about the people that sponsored this election, so the oligarchs that were at the inauguration ceremony, but at least from public information, it doesn't look like they have gained from this up and down, because it's not that easy for them to buy and sell stocks of the companies that they own, right? It's not a straightforward thing. They can't simply just sell and they can't simply just buy. And if you also look at the net outcome so far this year of the stocks that they own, they're still in a net negative. So, I mean, of course, it might not be the oligarchs that we know. It might be that there are some low-key friends of the president, but that's the thing that needs to be investigated. Yeah, but that's the thing that needs to be investigated, of who are the people that have gained so much from this swing, and how are they related to the president or people close to the president? What kind of political exposure do they have?
Yeah.
Without knowing that, I think, at least from what I can see from the public, I see it as, at the moment, people are trying to grasp at there has to be a reason, and it has to be money making. But I think people underestimate how much Donald wants to compete with China. I think people underestimate that.
Yeah.
They don't see it as enough reason to do all this thing that he's doing. They believe that he must be gaining something financially, but I think
you could do both, right?
It could do both, but I think there are easier ways for him to make money financially. This is much more, it's too complicated, and it's just not the best route possible. I don't agree with you.
You know why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
continue. I just want to make this statement. Like, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
involved in the Trump meme thing, I would never have
yeah.
thought of Donald to be this kind of person. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to come up with like Trump meme for him and Melania Trump, and like, for me,
Mm-hmm. The
that's
coins.
someone who could do this. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I'm not
crypto
saying
thing.
he's not capable of doing this. Donald is very, very capable of doing this, but they could do this market manipulation in a much simpler way. That's what I'm saying. They didn't have to shake this thing as much for the stock market to go up and down. And with regards to your tweet of him saying it's the best time to buy, that's because there was a lot of pressure on him, anyways. On look, the capital market is falling, the bonds and stuff there, it's about to fail, right? The US bonds. And he, as the president, needed to make a statement to put confidence in Americans again to say, look, buy. What I'm doing, yes, it impacts the stock market, but we're going to get better soon, right? I think you can also interpret it that way and it will still be true because it's also in his remit to give the people confidence in, I know what I'm doing. Because what's shifting the stock market is not the profit of the companies yet, right? It's the emotions of the people based on the policies that is making. So if you can tell them that, trust me, the policies that I'm making in the long run will put us in a good position, it makes sense that it tells them, yes, it's low now, just buy. Because I'm doing things that I know that is right for us. And I'm pretty sure this can be interpreted as such as well. And I'm not...
It's like a day after, then you are like you are making a decision that can hugely impact the market.
I think that's a question mark on the Trump's administration implementation way. So let me give an example. Earlier today, right, we heard about the technology pause, right? We heard about, the tariffs will pause on technology and some other mobile phones, laptop products, technology product.
Yeah.
But like 2 hours ago, someone from the White House came out again to say, that pause is going to be very short term. Like they go from, we have a solution, and someone from the White House again comes again and say, yeah, but it's not a solution that you can trust. We're still going to go as hard as we want.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean.
I think there's enough track record to show this back and forth in this administration.
Yeah.
He levied tariffs on all countries. EU was planning to retaliate. A few other countries are planning to retaliate. He overlooks their retaliation completely, focuses on China alone, and says, EU, everyone is fine. You can stay on 10% for now.
Would you say this is like as a result of the transparency thing that they are trying to achieve? Like, I know Trump wants to he wants to boast of the fact that we are the most transparent American administration ever. Do you think that's necessarily a good thing to do for a government to be?
So transparency is a good thing, but it has to be managed. Leadership requires confidence. Like when you follow someone, when you say that's the person that I want to follow, that's my leader, you have to have confidence in their decision-making process. So this on and off, where even if they are not showing this, the fact that we see that there's so much chaos in their decision-making process, there's so much chaos in their planning process, it faults the whole leadership point. They're supposed to still be the leaders. And I don't think this is a good way to be transparent.
Yeah, because then my question is then, is it then achievable? Do you then think, because for me, I feel like maybe if they were not trying to be this transparent, maybe we wouldn't have had or have this sort of perspective, or at least idea of like how they are like not really coherent with their information, and like how everyone is aware of what is going on. So that's why I asked the question. Like maybe it's not even possible to be that transparent. Maybe this is what you.
I think it's possible to be that transparent. Again, this is the artifact of the chaos in the administration. I think everything requires strategy, even transparency. So when they sit in rooms and they make decisions, they should also then add on to it, what do we tell the public? How can we be the most transparent with a one-voice approach? Without a one-voice approach, nothing works. And this is not a fault of transparency. It's, again, the artifact of the administration. It's just too chaotic, right?
Yeah.
And again, it puts doubt on everything they want to achieve. If they cannot have a one-voice approach, if they cannot have a plan that they actually see through. Again, you mentioned that it seems like they're shaking all these trees and then reacting. That's a very bad strategy for someone that wants to make so much change. You can't be reactionary, right? You actually have to create the game that you want to play and play that game. But I wanted to say, remember we mentioned that this provides opportunity for companies to negotiate with the government, and technology products now have that pause on the tariffs. Do you think Tim Cook and Sundar have been to the White House? I think they're not being transparent about something there. Because why are they not telling us what Google and Apple has promised for this pause on technology products? Or are they just doing it for the people? Because that's another angle. What do you think?
For Apple, you can make the argument of they already placed like an investment of, is it like 100 billion?
For 500 billion. Yeah.
So I think you could kind of justify why you want to make things easier for them, because they have to be able to support the government with those kind of initiatives, right? So if they are struggling, they are not going to come through on their promise. So, but for sure, I believe, I mean, these are like big companies in the US right now making a lot of money, like especially in the tech. They are in close proximity with the president, not just with Trump. I would argue with Biden also, like, because I mean, that's why you would also see them get away with some of the most ridiculous accusations and all. Like, these guys are just too big to fail, and for sure the government have to sort of keep them in loop of major decisions and try to appease them or try to support them whenever they can.
I think that's the exact word. They're too big to fail. They employ so many people. They contribute so much to the GDP, taxes, everything. They're just too big to fail. And we saw this coming 10,000 miles away. Whichever way it was going to happen, I just didn't see this tariff impacting Apple so much that they will just immediately, change everything. They have been building their supply chain in Asia for so many years, since the beginning of Apple. And I think if the tariff at the moment is at 145%, best believe if they rush their switch and move everything into the US, it would be 400% more. For it to be worthwhile that Apple moves immediately, they probably need a 500% tariff. Because their margin is crazy. That's why they have so much cash, and the entire supply chain that they have set up in China is one of the reasons why they can get that kind of margin. We have talked about a few ones here and there, but I wanted us to also talk about something we have talked about off camera, which is the perspective of the rest of the world and China. As you mentioned, we saw a few videos on the internet, and a professor was talking about it as well. This is something that was also coming from one of the managing partners in my firm, that game theorists are looking at the situation at the moment, and they see that it's a bully in a schoolyard game, right? And what this means is basically exactly what I've said: bully in a schoolyard. You are in a high school, there's a bullies all the weaker students, and what should the weaker students do? Now, in this scenario, it's really not a weaker student kind of situation. I think maybe I've said it wrong. There's a bully that just bullies other students, whether they're weaker or stronger, it doesn't matter. Just bullies other students. What is the best approach for the other students to deal with this bully, right? This is how game theory would look at it. And according to game theorists, the idea is that you have to stand up to the bully, right? No, not just game theorists. The common sense solution is stand up to your bully. But when you stand up to your bully, you have to also expect that there could be pain that comes with it. Whether you get in a fight and you end up exchanging punches or something like this, you get hurt as well when you stand up to your bully. But that's also the only way that you probably now solve the whole problem. So when we look at the China and the rest of the world perspective of what the US is doing, what are your thoughts in general also about China's response so far?
Now that you were talking about like the game theory part of things, that it could also be a strategy, because we might say a lot of things about Donald and his administration. I try not to forget that this is a really smart guy, unlike what like some opposition media would let you believe. Donald is not a dumb guy. He didn't get to where he is by luck. He was quite created and intentional. So I try to remember that even in his whole chaos and how the administration might look from the outside. So having that in mind, this might also be a strategy of, okay, let's see how, like, let's bully or let's try to bully everyone and see how they respond, just to assess how much got they've got or how much confidence they've got, then we can then maybe by extension see what we are dealing with or know what we are dealing with. Because now thinking
Mm.
of how China has been responding, it's obvious to everyone that China is not that guy you could really bully. And it begs the question, like, what do they really have going on? For me, I would be scared because I'm like, man, these guys, the way the confidence they have. I mean, I think we really need to go back to the drawing board. You get what I mean? So they are like
Yeah.
accessing how strong you are, then they know how to deal with you. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but I mean, for me, like I agree with you, but I would say, do they really need to test China to know where they are at the moment? Because they know
Yeah.
what they're doing internally. I think the image of China not being on the level of the US, the American government will know what they are doing. They know that they are the one using the media to make it seem like that's not the case. The government
Yeah.
should know. Majority
Yeah.
of American debt is with China. China is the largest lender of money in the world, largest manufacturer of everything, largest trade partner on everything, largest exporter in the world, biggest technology hub in the world. Do you see what I'm saying? Why would you test it? They have a very strong military presence. Why would you want to test to know? Maybe they want to show the rest of the world.
Because that's the most logical thing.
Yeah,
To
but
me.
they were also the one hiding the information from the rest of the world. Do you know what I mean? Let's say they want to show the rest of the world that, hey, China is a big boy now.
Yeah.
If they were not manipulating the media information about China, the world would have known very clearly, like 10 years ago, that China is a big boy. The moment China evacuated 800 million people from poverty, like 800 million people, moving them into the lower middle class and above, in a space of 20 years or something. They did this in like 3-4 decades ago. How many countries have managed to achieve that kind of feat?
So what's the point? Like, then explain because I'm just trying to make sense of the situation, right? Like,
So
that would be the
exactly.
most logical thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't know,
I know.
why are you acting like this to them?
Another thing is the US had authority. They see the Chinese authority and they're thinking, woo, this is a challenge to us. And they want to reinforce their positioning by making sure that people come kiss the ring. We're going to bully you and we see. So it's not for China. They already know where China is, but they want to know where the rest of the world is. Because they know that on paper, the rest of the world cannot compete. Only China can compete. Now they just want to know, who do you side with, rest of the world? And I say rest of the world, I'm saying rest of the Western world, right? Europe, Canada. Who are you going to side with? When everything comes to shove, when push comes to shove, are you falling to your Western brother side? Or are you actually open to align with China? I think maybe from that angle, that might be. They know where China is, yeah, and they're like, Europe, are you going to kiss the ring? Canada, are you going to kiss the ring? And I think it backfired a little bit at this moment.
Maybe not, because I mean, you also said that we were discussing on the phone the other time about this situation. It could also just be to slow them down, like because if you can't really beat them, if you can't beat them, you can't join them. You slow them down. I just made down.
Yeah, which makes sense. No, it actually makes sense. You can't beat, you can't join, just slow them down. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. 100%. That could also be the angle that they're seeing like, but I think in the bid to slow China down, US is also slowing themselves down. So I'm really not sure. And if you, as you said, like this Chinese representative, I don't know, was that the vice president of China or something on was it one of this American TV station? I see the reporter trying to reinforce to that person saying, you're going to lose 15% of your GDP or trade or something. And the guy said, we don't care. She repeated it again.
I swear.
Yeah, she repeated it again. And he said, I'm not sure you heard me correctly. We don't care. We've been around for over 5,000 years. Most of those times, the US was not in existence. And we'll be around for many more, 5,000 more. We don't care. I've said this before that it will affect China as well because they have a huge market in the US, right?
Yeah.
But I think Americans as well, they are overestimating the impact of what that looks like. They don't see that China can shift. So let's say the impact will be 15%. They can
Yeah.
shift a bit here and there to reduce that impact to like 5%. One, they can shift to, well, you are tariffing China now. Some products will be coming in through Vietnam. And China knows how to do this. They can do a bit of redirection. But on top of that, they can also shift product and sell to Canada instead, sell to Europe instead. And those people can still send to the US.
I think that's why it's a problem. That's why the whole plan itself seems it's looking like a problem, because they could definitely do this, and that's why it makes sense to then extend this whole tariff to the rest of the world, like
To the
for
rest of the
Canada
world.
and Mexico, for example, because they are like American neighbors, right? So yeah, you have to sort of protect every loophole that could be in this plan. Yeah.
I mean, you can write it is that if it's made in China, so it's not about whether it comes from China, but if it is made in China, you can change, you can do whatever you want with that, right? The American government could say every product that is made in China, but I think China can even still do a bit of production in China and then finish in Vietnam, and then there's so much that can be done to redirect. But even if that's not possible at all, they will survive. They will start to sell more to other countries, and then the effect will be slightly less. They will survive, because now that the US is acting like this, more countries are actually looking towards China as well. So there are so many effects in play. I will actually have to admit that it's so complicated how the things are moving that I cannot give the best quality prediction per se, because I think I have to look at it, at least personally, I have to look at it in this scenario, this is probably what plays out. But then there's another scenario and another scenario. So it's very complicated to give a high quality prediction on what plays out in general. What I can say for sure is that the way the rest of the world and China are reacting to the American tariff, I agree with them. It's not about what's good for the US. I think every country, as we have said before many times on the podcast, every country should look out for themselves, and they should do what's best for themselves. For me, from a perspective, I see two scenarios as a response scenario. Scenario number one, we do the analysis, we see that with the tariffs, what can we give away, blah, blah, blah. If there's a situation where retaliation is not the best outcome for our citizens, then we don't retaliate, right? But it also depends on pride, because sometimes this fighting a battle is not always about winning. It's just about making a point. And I've said this about the Ukraine-Russia thing as well. The reason Zelensky has such good ratings is not because they think they can kill Russia and burn Russia to the ground or whatever. It's simply because it's fighting for our homeland. Even if we all die, that pride is enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes that could also be, and that's exactly, and that's the second bit of, now, we're not going to let them bully us. We'll take a bit of pain, but we'll fine. We'll survive. And whatever the country prioritizes, good for them. I find it very funny that Trump did something like that and told every country, don't retaliate, just watch. If you retaliate,
that was the bulliest thing to say.
I will slap you a few times. Just watch. Just watch. Yeah. We'll all be happy. Let me slap you.
So when I talk, you say, yes, sir.
Exactly. If you raise your hand again, I will slap you even more. So don't raise your hand. I don't even know what he's saying. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
You can't treat countries like that and expect them not to reciprocate, especially when it comes to international relations. Like, there's a very strong concept in international relation. It's the same with visas, trade. There's so much on reciprocity.
Yeah.
Now, you do me, I do you. So for Trump to want to do them, and he's trying to tell them not to do
nothing is isolated. I think that's the flaw of this whole plan. Like, nothing is like, independent of another. Like you say, like when this happens, that happens. Then you have to really have a really holistic view of this whole situation, and it makes everything complicated, And just to back the point of like where China or the possibility of how this could go also is that I don't think from the statement of the vice president, I think China is fully ready to get hurt, feel pain, lose money for pride. They are not as like the most mainstream country or like trying to boast or show off, but these are people that are they have strong ideologies around respect and how you treat people and all
exactly.
So they will make a point if he even loses them, like they lose money.
Exactly. It's ingrained in their culture. The
Yeah.
pride, the Chinese pride, it's ingrained in their culture. And what's interesting is they are being transparent about what they would do with the US as well, but it's so coherent. If you stop a Chinese government official on the street
Yeah.
tomorrow, they will tell you the same thing the VP said.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? And this is the thing, they're so coherent and they're prepared for it as well. That's another thing. They are prepared for it. They'll be doing so much that their stock market also endured the least loss in Asia when this thing started. They're doing so much to boost stuff and support their industries that they are prepared. And they're also prepared to lose, as you mentioned. And they reiterated today again, even though there was the pause on the technology tariff and stuff, they still reiterated to the American government, we implore you to just let everything go. Yeah, we're not going to look at it like, technology is free, so let's reduce from 25% to 100. They're saying, well, if we're here, we're willing to go as far as you want it. And I even heard one, I think it was the ambassador of China to whether the US or something. He posted on Twitter or something and he said, whatever type of war that you want to fight, we're ready and good to go. Be it trade war, be it military war, financial, any. Do you know what it takes to look at a country like the US and be like, trust me, your data is not telling you what is real. Trust me, we are good to go. Like maybe the US might do some analysis and say we have this number of ships, blah, blah, blah. I saw one guy on TikTok making another analysis. Of course, China is the leader in producing ships, right? But the standard of Chinese ships, right? Every single ship, even if it's just for trade, produced in China must meet military standard. So, of course, when you calculate warships, you would say the US has more. But if every single ship in China must be able to carry tanks and military equipment from one point to the other because it must meet military standards, it means that if everything gets converted to warship in a war,
exactly,
you're looking at 10 million to 100,000 ships.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different ball game.
And that's what I mean by testing it. Like, I feel like economically, maybe US does know what they are capable of, but military in a lot of other like sectors, they might not fully know what they really accomplished. And I believe maybe and I feel strongly they would really shock the world if they really come open, because they are not, like I said, like the most boastful people are not. Just
but they're welcoming
the cars they are
now,
making. Look at all these things. Look at, then you think they are not investing in like military like stuff to just
They are. I mean, the technology part, I think they have unlocked, man. The fact that they approved flying cars and stuff, of course, they have some crazy stuff in the background. But anyways, enough on Trump's tariff. Now let's go to another social commentary / political commentary related topic, and it's about this crazy miniseries that came out on Netflix called Adolescence. You've seen it. I've seen it. Crazy. What are your thoughts? Let's just jump into it. Like,
man, straight up, man, I would just say, like, for me, the hype was definitely worth it. Like, I mean, I've seen a lot of things that people will be talking about here and there, like, and I won't be impressed. Another one is like Severance. It's also like, maybe also just in the US actually, like the hype is a lot, and I've seen it. I'm not as impressed, but hands down for me, this is the best Netflix show that I've seen. Better than Squid Game or all these things that we And
what would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the best.
9.5, bro.
Bro, me too, man. I swear to God, exactly, man. Bro, I swear.
9.5.
Adolescence is a 9.5 out of 10 for so many reasons.
For so many
reasons. Acting on point, so real. You know, you're watching a movie, you know that that's a great actor, but they have this balance with acting and making it, because normally you have to act, right? And act would look different from real life.
Yeah.
But these guys managed to act, and you can feel
as
like
natural as possible.
As real life, as natural as possible.
Yeah.
The acting was superb. Guess what? It's also a one-take movie, which blows my mind from the production perspective. And that's why you see that the camera just pans and follows the next person and back, and one-take movie with that type of acting, that type of complicated story.
I wanted to say like the night before, but then putting that into perspective, I feel like that is challenging as hell. That is difficult to do. Like you could mess up a beautiful scene just for 1-2 seconds mess up. So you would have to
Exactly.
do it again. So it's challenging
That's
to be
what
able
I
to
saw.
come out with stuff like this, man. Like for real.
I saw a TikTok video. I saw a TikTok video of in the shooting of adolescents, and they had like a bunch of like very big name YouTubers from the UK, right, and comedians.
Action.
Hello, mate.
Yes, Jez, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How's the family?
Yeah, good, thanks. What about yours?
All right.
You shooting off now or what?
5, 10 minutes.
All right, top man. See you later.
Yes, Jez.
Hello, fella.
How you doing, brother?
Good, thanks yourself.
Good to see you, mate.
Just been
You
gym?
Yeah, just been trying to get like you.
Mate, I'm trying to be like you. What are you on about? Oh,
on,
Aaron, I know what you're gonna say.
Paperwork.
Paperwork.
Let's go.
Doing it now.
No, thank you.
Hey, come on. What's up with you? Look at you looking fresh in the Sunday best.
Frank bought him yesterday.
Come on.
Goodness sake, man.
Yeah. You're bad. You lost again.
Again.
Bro, you're a loser.
Don't tell me you lost again.
Yeah, again, man.
Mate, every time. He's got your number, I'm telling you. Right, see you later, Paul.
Well, I've got something important to tell you.
What's up?
Got my line.
Oh, brother.
Are you joking
Again.
me?
How many times? No.
You know what?
Man.
Listen,
I'm going over. I'm done. One job.
I'm gonna pick up the kids, man.
One job.
No. I can't do it.
He messed up again.
So basically, it started with this guy, this football guys, the former F2 freestyler. I forgot the name of the guy. So they hey, what are you doing, mate? Blah, blah, blah. And then they walk through the house, and then after like 10 minutes, one guy forgets his line. And they're like, oh, fuck me. Like, we have to do it again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, it was so funny. And at that time, I had not seen the movie.
Yeah.
The series. So when I watched it, I was mind blown. Like I was
Yeah.
like, wow. And the acting itself, like the father, the boy. The father is actually one of the directors and writers as well. Jeez, the acting.
It was insane, man. Bro, I had to look this guy up, man. And I'm like, he's actually in Venom, because I was checking his profile to just see his resume or what he has done. He was in Venom, like the one with, was this guy?
Pamadi.
It was the other Venom in the lab that was like locked. Opposite. For me, he was the best like actor in that like series, man.
The way he communicated emotions,
bro.
like,
I was
so
like,
raw.
it was mental, man. Yeah.
Bro, so raw. So like
It
I
made
was
you feel like
feeling
a father,
everything.
even though
The way it
I'm
was.
not a father. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know when they were checking his boy in episode 1? When they were checking his boy, and it was just like,
Like to remove all his clothes and everything. Yeah.
I was like, man, I didn't know what to feel, man.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah,
are you
it
right?
was amazing.
Are you right?
Yeah. You see, oh no, that was also emotional. But now, like, of course, it's a crazy story, and it has represented the society today, in a way where every one of us that are close to parenthood or parents already, I have to tell you, it put some sort of fear in my mind about being a parent. I have to tell you, like, this is how it made me feel. I was like, ooh, this is the world today. And it was so important that the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, actually talked about it in the House and started thinking about policies that they could do to protect kids more, right? I'm going to come to what Madam Kemi Badenoch, this silly woman, at this point, I just feel like she's mental. She's crazy.
Yeah, I think she's derailed, actually. She's delusional.
She's a person, I swear.
She's delusional, yeah.
But let's pause that. I don't even want to talk about. She's pissing me off, bro. Like,
I know.
But anyways, pause that. It was that important that the politicians are talking about it. Everyone is watching it, and they're like, "Wow, this is now our society. This is the life of kids today. This is f***ed up. Why? Why was that so? The story being so, it's a fictional story, but it was so close to society that everyone is concerned. What do you think is going on with society? Why?
I mean, it just shows that parents are not, like, they are having less and less influence in the upbringing of a child. These days we have the internet, we have the government, like this all these I don't want to say people, they all have like influence on how kids will turn out. So I mean we are really struggling to level up with the society we have built. We are playing catch up with a lot of things, internet with and ideologies about things that we feel like were done wrong in the past that we want to fix. New implementation would come with unintended consequences, like either positive or negative. So like I don't want to sound cold or whatever. I still strongly believe that the way it is in Africa, like for the most part, for Nigeria, scolding a child, it's not necessarily abuse. It could be. I've seen situations that I know for sure, like this is like outright abuse. So when you take a lot of these things that have been working for so many years away, we all want to be woke. We all want to be better than our parents. Like we all feel like, oh, yeah, I could do better. You see things that you want to do better, obviously. Yeah, we should just try to find a balance. And I think in the world today, balance is definitely lacking in a lot of our new ideologies. We are throwing a lot of ideologies from the past away so rapidly just to be better than the previous humans, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. I mean, it's become so much more complicated raising a child today when you put into the influence of having mobile phones and being connected to the internet, and then you look at the capacity, right? The opportunity that we as adults and parents and community actually have to impact a child's life. They're alone.
Yeah.
It's too much freedom that they are alone. They're fucked up in the head, and I think it's because of the too much freedom. In that movie, for example, this crime occurred so late at night that I thought, how are kids of XXX age allowed to just walk out of their home that late at night?
Because the parents are probably just walking, yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine if the parents are working. And this is another question, and that's why I included community. If this would be Nigeria and you live in a decent neighborhood and you're going out that late at night, best believe your neighbor is like, Ibrahim, is mommy at home? What's going on? You will think twice before going out, because our parents will even say, you know what, I'm going to be coming late today, so I will lock the door and you guys can go to bed. I'll open it once I'm ready, once I'm back. So you can't go out. There are things that you can do. And again, child rearing practices. Of course, there have been some positive changes, but I think there have been some negative changes as well, because we see kids nowadays they are alone, they have too much freedom, and they get wild.
They are disconnected. They are more connected to the internet than their parents, than their school, than anything. If it's not on the internet, I think they don't really care. And I wanted to make a point while you were talking about Nigeria and the society, and I feel like that's also rapidly changing, because you described that, and in my head, and I feel like people are aspiring to be in a different situation. What you just described would sort of be like maybe middle class in settings, or an ideal upper class life that a Nigerian is aspiring to have is this isolated life, this massive building. Don't really get close to your neighbors, like 20 rooms, mansion. You get what I mean? So when you think of that scenario, you would think houses are like houses that are like in close proximity, and that really happens in some sort of environment. Unlike if you go to like governors' estates or like all these wealthy people's places, it's isolated as fuck.
And this is a super westernized ideology, right?
Exactly.
I would say, and having a big compound like that. So I grew up in a middle class home, but we had our own compound, right? And it was big enough that my parents could say, boys, play with yourself inside. We were like always a lot of boys and girls and stuff. Like we had enough people and things at home to play around. So when they're going out, if they will be coming back late, they're happy to actually lock the gate from outside, because you have everything you need in that big compound. That's also fine. Do you know what I mean? That's also fine, even if the neighbors won't participate in the thing. But for sure, even in these fancy neighborhoods, neighbors still talk. And the difference between the talk in the Western world and the talk in
they do actually.
Nigeria is because they talk in both worlds. In the Western world, they will talk low-key in between themselves, but they will never get to the parents. In Nigeria, one person will call your mother, probably not your father. One person will call your mother and say, I saw X and X last night. Did you know it was going out?
That's true.
Even in fancy neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think community needs to get back to being involved in child rearing. And it was like this a little bit, right? Because if you watch episode 3 or something, there was this old woman outside, and it also tells you something about the older generation.
How they portray that, right? And they made her like too nosy, she was poking in their business.
But that nosiness was helpful.
Exactly.
Because every time it was going out, it could say, hey, please watch the door. Hey, please watch the house.
Yeah.
But it also made sense that they showed it that it was an older generation that was doing that. And I think we need to rethink about that as well. Also, when it comes to the kids in school and the way they were super rude to their teachers, the way they were, and I'm like hearing so many stories. Bro, I just heard some stories about some kids that went to a school trip in Paris.
Yeah.
And bro, what I heard, what we saw in that movie is real and even worse than that in real life. And parents are playing a part in that. They just want to be friends with their kids. They just want to appease their kids. They just want anything that their kid wants, they just want it for them. I'll give you an example. Do you know that I heard that a kid, this is crazy, a kid was going on a school trip to Paris. And for this school trip, they have to stay with like partner families, right? The family will have a child as well so it's like a school mix kind of trip. And then you stay with the partner family in Paris. And then when they come to Germany as well, they will stay with the partner family in Germany, right? So there was a party where there will be drugs and alcohol, old guys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the parent of the partner family said, no. I mean, the daughter age group of the partner family as well was like, and I don't want to go to that kind of party. There will be drugs. It's not a safe place in Paris, blah, blah, blah. So the parent, mother said, no, you cannot go. Do you know what she did? This one coming from Germany, called the mother. Oh, they won't let me go to that party, so I want to come back to Germany.
Wow.
And the mother called the teacher. Oh, they won't let her go to the party that she wanted to go to. I'm driving down to Paris to pick her up from Germany. Thankfully, this didn't happen. But how is that the way we are raising kids today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the West, they do have a lot of influence on at least Nigeria and a lot of African countries, and this is definitely I don't know why they are going in this direction, but for some reason, like, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me how isolated life is designed to be in the US. It's not even close in Germany, bro. You would think, oh, Germany is also a Western country, right, bro? The gap,
It was in the US.
the gap between how people live in Germany and in the US is mental. I shared with you this video, right? That's like just this funny guy that just came back from that went on a trip to the US to visit a friend. He's a German, he's a European guy. I said, oh, let's go for a walk. Everything is so sparsely populated. It's mind-blowing.
Unless you live in New York or Cali or something, like,
But those
the
are
big
like
metropolitan cities.
like
Yeah.
very little part of the whole US. Like the standard
Exactly.
when you remove these massive crowded cities, they are like maybe 15%. It's insane. It's isolated too much. You yourself, the relationship of older parents now is another problem. Not even like you as a young parent having kids. I see that the idea of throwing your parents in like what's it called now, in homes in their older age, that's mind boggling, man. And this is something we don't have. Older people in Nigeria would be active, would still be happy with life. But at some certain age here, they just throw you and start paying money for some people to take care of you and stuff. And I feel like that's sad. Bro, I don't know, man. I don't this is a very personal question that I've asked myself several times, and I've come to the conclusion that at least not living in the West. The only, for me, and this is a personal solution, is like still going back to Nigeria to raise my kids. But if I have to raise my kids here, I don't see how, I'm not as excited to do that. because I see too many problems.
You do what you have to do and just hope for inshallah. Because if they don't get into gangs, if they don't get into
Inshallah
bad
vibes.
drugs, yeah, there's the problem of OnlyFans as well, and this and that, and then it's all about money, and there's just so many issues to deal with. One of the issues that were raised in the movie was blamed on the Andrew Tate type of movement and stuff like this. And personally, I felt like this was an unnecessary stray bullet to the gentle guy just doing his own thing. I don't think he has ever, at least I've never seen a video of Andrew promoting violence against women, promoting wanting a woman by fire by force, promoting anything like what they portrayed in the movie. So I felt like, again, that was the British media rhetoric of trying to make him look bad by fire and by force. What did you think about that Andrew Tate stray bullet?
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of in the media these days, you see a lot of discussion on toxic masculinity, right? I mean, it's also in line with the Andrew Tate thing. The awareness is being pushed aggressively, like over the past years, right? Like the decade or two. At the same time, women liberalism is also being pushed. Now, stay with me. Now. So you are pushing like men to be. You are really letting us know, like, oh, a lot of men can be bad, like this, toxic, like. And women, on the other hand, you are pushing, oh, you're my body, my choice, and this and that, like, it's being pushed. Like this movie, this series, Emily in Paris, I hate that series because it's like the epitome of the idea of what women should not be like, and it's like this viral thing that every woman is talking
I know a
about.
lot of
Back
people
then,
watching it. Yeah,
exactly. Back then, it was like, yeah, it went viral. We are pushing all these ideas. You see a lot of videos on YouTube where if a woman can slap 10 men in the space of 20 meters, and there might not be any consequence in the public. Just giving a very radical example. But let that be the reverse. Let the reverse the gender and see what would happen. So asking why this is happening, I think this could be an example. This could be a very good point of why it's happening, because we are really making masculinity bad, and we are really making things that could make women much more admirable to a lot of men to like really bad also. It's like, no, don't do anything to be good for the opposite or to be appealing to the opposite gender or sex. Be whatever you want. Don't worry, we got you. There's no consequence. And I will give you an example of what really happened in the series that is a clear example of this. Right. When the boy approached the girl and she was like, oh, I'm not that desperate. We are not hearing any discussion on anyone telling their daughters, don't talk to boys like this. He was interested in you. He was just trying to be nice. He wants to, sort of have something with you. Be respectful. Tell him, oh, sorry, this. No one, I've never seen any, it's all this Andrew Tate thing. And I feel like we are pushing a lot of our younger boys to this situation. We don't want to hear what they feel, what they are feeling, how they can really be balanced.
Yeah, I think we're raising women to be free and happy and all that stuff. And maybe the boy child they're starting to be neglected. And when you neglect them, let's even say someone like, for me, I strongly believe at least every single video of Andrew Tate that I've seen, except the ones that are like clearly comedy jokes.
Yeah.
All the videos that he has been serious, I think he makes logical sense. But the world functions on emotions, not necessarily logic. But if you look at what the media says about Andrew, and then you actually watch what he's saying, you will find this huge disconnect. But I put this as a disclaimer. Let's just scrap that completely and say Andrew Tate was a bad guy telling young boys to be terrible human beings. The only reason that message resonates, the only reason young boys listen to him is because they have been neglected, because there's no reasonable voice to listen to. There's no other voice to listen to that actually shows them how to engage in the world today.
That resonates. That's the keyword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The resonation and the fit for the world today. I think if you still continue to tell women what you're telling them, and the message you still tell boys is be chivalrous, do this for women, do that for women, for example, you're still setting them up for a wrong world, for a wrong society, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
You need to tailor the message accordingly. And it took me a very long time as well. I had discussions with you. I remember having that discussion with Samuel as well, when we were talking about what's the role of a man in a household when it comes to provision and stuff. And then we actually said, well, in the world today where there's a high likelihood that you'll make the same amount as your partner, or your partner makes more and all that stuff, to still want to take on this full responsibility. But I tell you, growing up, and even for me, it took me a long time to take that message in and say, well, this is the new reality of the world, right? You probably need to adjust. And that's the thing. Maybe some people are giving these boys messages that they think make sense, but it's not fitting to the world where women are now what they are. Not bad, but at least engaging with men differently, engaging with the
Exactly.
world differently. So you leave a vacuum, and I'm not saying Andrew Tate is bad, but if it was bad, we are also the one that left the vacuum that he would fill.
For sure. Exactly the point.
And this is also, I think, the reason where a lot of counseling is required. Let's say I was a little boy with no sense, of course, with growing brains. Let me put it this way. I'm a little boy with growing brains, interested in getting girls, and I'm not successful. But I'm looking up to the big boy in the classroom that gets girls. The high likelihood that is super, super toxic and aggressive, in fact, but maybe he looks good or he's taller or something.
Yeah.
But the high likelihood that he has a terrible character is there. And now there's no one counseling me, telling me that, look, those girls are also not mature enough to understand that they should engage differently and blah, blah, blah. The only information I have to work with is be like him,
For
right?
sure. Exactly.
Be like him. And the escalation that could happen for me being like the big boy in the class is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Which means there's still a lot of counseling required for us and for the young women as well. But this is not where it's interesting. The way it's a very complicated scenario. The way Nigerian schools and Nigerian society has dealt with it is, until you are really old enough, you can't publicly and just say I'm in a relationship. In secondary school, you can't say I'm trying to get a girl, right? It happens, but these are things that we all do in the background and secret and all that stuff. So we all accept that it's any case a difficult thing. The society don't want us to do it. The community don't want us to do it. So it's not do or die yet. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that also it helps you balance the
there's no
there's
approval
a time
yet.
where it's better.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually get to develop a little bit better before you start to engage in those kind of situations seriously, right? If it happens before, you see it as I'm one of the lucky ones. Oh yeah, because you'll be many, whether good looking or not good looking, that would just be in that same scenario of it's not an approved action to take. Everyone would just be a bit cautious anyways. And that's usually what happens. But if you're in a different society, but yeah. There's a lot of counseling required.
Counseling both boys and girls, it's not a main problem. It's not you see, and that's why we have people like Andrew Tate. And it's not just him. We have a lot of smaller ones cashing out on this problem massively. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to monetize it, but there is a problem. And these guys, they didn't create it. We are acting like they created it. No. Maybe they made it worse a little bit. Maybe. But if we are not talking about the problem, it's not going to go away. Like, canceling Andrew Tate or whatever. There will be other ones that are not even as mainstream or popular as him. That will be somewhere. It could be your street older bro that you look up to, giving you like
that's
shittiest
that's
advice.
The one that's even worse, right? That's the one that's worse, because for example, with the Andrew Tate one, there's a bit of assessment here and there that we're able to make, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, I can watch the videos of Andrew Tate and say, I don't see a problem here. Yeah, maybe some people have over-interpreted some of the things that he's saying. And he also recognizes now that he has so much authority and power in the world now that he needs to say those things with a bit more care, right? And make sure that he's a bit more clear on what is extreme and what is not. He also agreed that before he became so famous, he would say things without the necessary guardrails for the people that might be listening to him. Right, and he's moving in a different direction now. But the street bro that we don't know what, we cannot vet what is saying. We cannot, that's even worse, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that
Because you don't even know who is
don't know.
influencing your boy, man.
you just don't know. You just
Yeah.
don't know. And that's a problem that I don't think can even be sorted out. I think parents will just need to find a way to gap things, because even in Nigeria, this is the biggest issue, right? The influences that you can get from the streets. Of course,
On the
our
streets.
own parents back then, they just told us not to mix with anyone, good or bad. They just didn't care. This is the protection that it's like, I don't want to see you outside. I don't want to
If I
see you
yeah,
hanging out
yeah.
with. And then when you reach a particular age, it's my dad himself that's like, oh, are you going out to play football, or are you to that?
Yeah.
They want us to interact with society at the point where they felt like our brain was capable of handling it.
Yeah, we are confident in yeah.
And I think this needs to happen again. You can't force, like, family friend, close neighbors, people that you can really vet and say they're on the same level. When you just leave it all open, no guard, it's too dangerous.
I have a question for you. Why do we tell women to do whatever they want and men differently? Why is that message not all humans do whatever they want?
What I think it's coming from is what women felt like they were previously caged or previously chained, and they are saying now we're going to freedom, and freedom means do whatever you want.
So that's not freedom.
And for men, they felt like men had always had the opportunity to do whatever they want, that they have now overdone it. So instead, they're saying men
I get that.
don't do. I think that's the
Yeah.
position that people are coming from, without
Yeah, I
realizing
get
that
that.
this is not the reality of every single man or every single woman. This is not the truth for every single individual. And when you say freedom of do whatever you want, that's not a bad advice. Do whatever you want. I think the negative part, the part that is incomplete about it is, but there are consequences. The fact
Exactly
that
the
they're now trying to remove consequences
Exactly.
for certain actions that women will do and trying to justify it as that's just still part of the freedom for them, that's where the problem comes from.
And that, I feel like, is the genesis of this whole thing. I strongly believe, in my opinion. We blame it on boys, on men too much. And I feel like you mentioned the fact
Well,
that the problem is, I mean, I'm going back to the adolescence thing now, like why this is happening or why. Yeah. I think regardless of how men act, a lot of men are quite aware of consequences. I'm not sure if it's a gender thing, but it might be a societal structural thing. You might do the worst shit. Trust me, inside and inside of you, you know for sure that in Yoruba we say ojo gbogbo ni to le, ojo kan ni to lohun. It means like every day for the thief, one day for the
owner.
So you always have that. But now we are telling women to do whatever they want. I don't want to go political, like with their body in terms of abortion, with this, with that, with surgeries, with dating, with men are still sort of having this for every action there must be equal, an opposite reaction.
Yeah.
We are still accountable. We are still knowing, like, holding strong on consequences.
Yeah.
It will not match. And that's, for me, where I feel the problem
I
is.
think the strongest example that could, without being political, is the idea of when you're accused of rape as a man, but rape is terrible. If you're a rapist, you should, like, it's terrible.
castrated.
You should face the full blunt. Exactly.
You should be
Like,
castrated.
it's terrible. So to clarify this, so every person that has done anything in that regard, sort of assault, should definitely face their consequence. However, when you have been falsely accused, I think the consequence of false accusation should be commensurate to the impact of the accusation in the first place. And I think the system needs to put something in place where it doesn't even need to be the man that now puts into motion the consequence of a false accusation. If the law takes its course and they found that it's a false accusation, the consequence should be just as strong. There was a case that I was reading on the internet where this man was falsely accused, lost his scholarship, went to jail, went to prison, I think 7 years later, the lady confessed that it never happened and they just moved on. He has been in jail, he has lost his scholarship, he has lost his life, mental health, Lord knows where it is, and you just move on. Shouldn't it be that the state starts to prosecute false accusation? Like there needs to be a balance so that men also start to feel like, well, there is
Not neglected.
yeah, don't lash out, yeah. Because sometimes what then happens is in the adolescence movie, that boy lashed out. And of course, he should face the consequence. For me, I wasn't even looking at him as a child anymore. I was just like, if you're old enough to do what you did, yeah, you.
There's
That's
a
what I thought.
demon in that boy, man, bro.
Yeah, like, yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, he's a beast.
The way he was like in the room, like he was going on and off with his anger. He was talking like a proper adult. That it was the adult thing that he said that I was looking at. Like, what's wrong with this boy, man?
I was like, yeah, he should face all the consequences. Yeah, he was wild. But you see, the action that happened that night was him lashing out, right?
Yeah.
Which is terrible. And he needed counseling to be able to get past that. Now, let's quickly talk about this mad woman called Kemi. She came up in a bid to play opposition in the house, to attack the prime minister for trying to make a policy based off the adolescence movie. She said, yeah, this is a fictional story, but the fictional story was based on a story that truly happened. And she turned it again into a race thing, that it was actually something that happened to a different race and not a white race. How that was important, how that was relevant for anything, just didn't make sense to me. I feel like she's one of the most divisive politicians I've seen in a long time. Like, she would die on the heel of white people are angels and every other race is. And she's a black woman. What is wrong with her?
She wants to be picked so bad. That's what is wrong with her.
You remember, is it Rockus or what's his name from Boondocks? You remember this old man that said he's white, he's super black, and he's like, I'm white.
Yeah.
And like, if you're black people, fucking like, yeah, this is what Kemi reminds me of. And even like the media and all, they're saying this woman is not making any sense. So arrogant. And guess what? She hasn't seen the movie.
Yeah, she has, some people told
She
her
hasn't
about
seen
it.
it.
Like, she had like a summary of it and all. Like,
Yeah, she said, I don't have to watch what everyone is watching. I just know that it's a different. I'm like, please.
Then don't comment on it if you haven't seen it. That's just what I would say.
Please.
Yeah.
Interesting. The father in that movie was a co-director, and he sort of said that the fiction was also based off some of the things that he has seen as well, even in his own childhood. And it's right. So for Kevin to try to wash it off and say, nah, it didn't happen, it's just, yeah.
For me, I'm really convinced that she has a mental problem.
I think so. Now.
She has a mental health condition that she might probably not be aware of. She sounds so... and I'm not saying this in any bad way or anything, not to like make joke of any mental health illness, but she needs to really go check herself or something. Yeah.
But one last game that we'll play now is an agree or disagree game with a bit of detail around it. And today we're going to be discussing the red cap theory. What the red cap theory simply says is that once a man is ready to get married, there's the right one or whatever. It just picks the next available girl and gets married to her. Do you agree or disagree with?
You're laughing, right? Yeah. I already felt like I knew what I was going to say, but somehow 2 days ago I changed my answer and I would go for yes. I strongly believed, because we pushed this like by almost 2-3 episodes, right? So for me it was a no, but I just felt like somehow the answer just came to me spiritually like 2 days ago. Like I'm trying to be dramatic, but like I would definitely say that it seems to be true. Like, I've seen it happen around me a lot, but I wanted to say but that doesn't make it true for me. But I feel like I think it might be true for I think it is true for me. I know why it came to me. I was dealing with a girl, my Australian ex, sort of. It wasn't like a serious. And she said something to me when we were calling everything quit. She said, "You are just not ready. That the moment that I'm ready, I would shift my plans." And I mean, she's an amazing person and all, but then I'm like, she's not wrong, bro. I was not just ready. And now going back to the red cap theory, when you are ready and you meet someone you feel like is amazing or like you could potentially do that way, you don't overthink it. You just go for it. And I think that
Yeah.
makes the huge difference.
I know what you mean, which makes a lot of sense. The answer is yes for me as well. And my reasoning is simple, as you have said as well, that for a man, well, there is a scenario that maybe you have been with the woman that you think is the right one, and then when you're ready, you marry that woman, but it also still means that she's the one available at that time. But let's say you are single and you're ready, you would just take the next one that is also ready to marry. Like you take the next one that has her head down, ready to say, okay, I'm done with the streets or whatever. I'm ready to marry. You will take it instantly. And the reason is, I think that's when men start to see that there's no perfect one out there. I feel like you learn through everything, and then when you're actually ready to marry, you are very well inside yourself knowing that there's no perfection out there.
Yeah.
So the one that looks like we have an alignment that could lead to a marriage, you will take it.
Yeah.
Some people misinterpret the red cap theory to say,
You're settling.
yeah, to say it also means that not necessarily settling, that if you are with the woman that you strongly believe that this is the perfect one, that if you are not ready, there's no scenario that you will marry her, even though you're not ready. And I think that's not necessarily true. I've seen guys that are not ready to marry, but they have experienced, and this is the difference, they have experienced missing out on someone that they thought was perfect. Experience is the best teacher. Your first time of missing out on someone that was perfect, you probably won't do it. But you have missed out on someone that was perfect. It took you 4 years to align mentally on, I missed that one. And luckily, you're dating another girl
That
that
makes
is
sense,
super,
actually.
super perfect. You would tell yourself, look, worst case scenario, we will say we're not doing kids yet.
Yeah.
But if you want that marriage, we will lock it down and still keep it relationship style, dating style. We might be married and not even live together yet. And I know a few people that did that, right? Wife is living in the US, husband is living in Germany, but we are married. They see each other once a year. Just know that, look, you have the ring.
I'm not letting you go.
I'm not exactly. But without the experience of knowing that when people go, they can actually really be gone,
Yeah.
you might not take that opportunity because you're not ready. But if you have one experience of something that you felt like, oh, I let go, yes, you can also get married even when you're not ready, in the sense of readiness. But the red cap theory, I agree that it's still a yes on, but every time you are ready, you will just take the next one available. The next one available might be the perfect one. The next one available might be the one that fits everything you need. The next one available might be the one that does not fit anything that you need, but you will pick the next one available when you're ready.
I think it's a mindset shift. You shift from a mindset of we are seeing how this would go. We are sort of checking each other out and see if we are a match, as opposed to when you feel like, oh man, I want to do this. You change your mindset to, I'm going to make this work. So you're not checking a lot out. It's just like, you know what? I've seen what I need to see. Every other thing, we'll figure it out.
Exactly. And exactly. We'll figure it out. And she's ready to get married as well. I can sleep at night with her, right? Like I can sleep at night knowing she's my wife, because this is also like, because when we say you'll pick the next one that's available, when a woman is not available as well, it just won't work. You know? But if a woman wants to marry as well, done. You know, but what's very interesting is I saw another post that was a bit related to it, that most men end up with their second option. And most men end up with women that they are not the one that they felt the most love with. Something like this. And a lot of women were commenting under it saying, oh, God forbid, my goodness, this world is so difficult. And I thought about it very deeply and I said, is it truly a problem for women if that kind of situation happens? What do you think? Is it truly a problem?
I think with men, at least with most men, I don't think that's the strongest basis of what we base our criteria on who we get married to. It's not the feelings. It's not who I love the most. It's not who makes me feel butterflies the most. It's who I align with the most. So it's the idea of, they settled or they did this. If it's based on who you like the most and she's gone, I think probably you dodged the bullet, because marriage is not love. It's not all based on love, right? It has to. You could love each other from heaven till heaven. It doesn't work. It's chaos. It's madness. So what's the point? You just have to think efficiently and not just the wishy who you can have the most fun with or who you can. I mean, every other thing are important too, but basing the topmost criteria as like the feelings, I don't think I wouldn't do that. I don't want to speak for everyone.
So from your perspective, at least you're like, how women don't understand, but that's not the biggest problem, right?
Exactly.
I felt the same as well. When I thought about it, I was thinking, look, a man that is truly a man wanting to get married and all that stuff, it will just be responsible for the person that he chooses.
Exactly.
Right? If he chose you, forget about how strong that love is. Love you can build over time, all those things you can build over time. As long as there's alignment. And it then brought me back to the message of men prefer respect and women want the love. So I saw it that from the man's perspective, it's not a problem. But from the woman's perspective, because they function more on emotion and that love thing, I could see how it scared them so much. And, I was just laughing like the creator is just so amazing that we are made so different in the way we function that it just creates a huge problem in being able to see each other's perspective. Emily in Paris that you saw and you felt, this is the craziest movie, should not be allowed to exist. For women, it's doing a completely different thing. And I cannot tell, you made the point yesterday when we were on the phone, that if any man comes and say, I know the perspective of the woman, they should cut off his head. He has no sense. There's no way, as a man, there's no way you can truly, fully understand the perspective of a woman. But it's the same for a woman as well, because we are just so different.
In different worlds. Yeah. In different worlds.
And this is fine. That's what makes the world beautiful, I think. Yeah. This was an exciting episode. We're looking forward to your comments as usual. Do not forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends and family. We're on every platform: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Thread, Facebook, every platform you can think of. Looking forward to your reactions. Exactly. Very soon. Coming to your screen on OnlyFans.
Oh yeah, donate, tap your screen down.
Because of the effort that it takes to prepare our content, it will be very expensive on OnlyFans, just know. All right then. Cheers everyone. Peace
And love. Don't play.
Don't play.
Why did I just say that?